Ugh. Terrible. Hey everybody, welcome to Neil Talks. My name's Neil, and it's time to talk more QI. I love when I go into one of these without any clue what to expect. No spoilery thumbnails, no guest names in the description of the video, nothing like that. I just know I've been recommended this video by one of you. And this is from Series K. This is the first episode of that series. It's called Knees and Knockers. And I'm going to enjoy my morning coffee and what I'm sure is going to be a great episode of QI. So join me now.
Tonight is a chaotic clutter of K-words. Let's clock the contestants. The kind-hearted Sarah Pascoe.
All right. We know Sarah.
The Calipigian Jack Whitehall.
Oh, cool.
The knowledgeable David Mitchell.
Oh, awesome. I didn't realize I hadn't seen all of Davies.
Knock me down with a kangaroo, it's Alan Davies. This week's call signs are all K creatures.
Kookaburra?
Is it a bird?
Yes.
Okay, it's a bird. With a kestrel.
Short and kestrel.
Kez.
Kez, yeah.
Oh, that was
but
my
that's the
question.
film.
There's a bird called a Kez. That's a...
Kevin Bacon getting into really hot water. I'd let that sound anywhere.
Kookaburra is the right answer to Kookaburra.
Is that a Klingon spacecraft?
Kangaroo.
No.
Koala.
Yes! Yes! It's a koala!
Wow, that sounds evil. Frickin' drop bears.
As your old nemesis, Colin, the QI scorer, has been replaced by a new scorer called Murray, who happens to be a huge fan of yours.
Told me too late to bribe him.
What's happened to Colin, though?
He's now, I think, probably counting votes in the House of Lords, or something similar. But
We're one step away from the house.
Yeah.
yes, we are.
Next.
What is this? It's a noise. Listen out carefully.
It's a klaxon.
We're beginning with K.
But I don't want to buzz in.
Yeah, a klaxon.
Oh!
What?
We call it the klaxon. It's not actually.
So is that a brand name? Like the Tannoy
Brilliant.
or a Hoover?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
The klaxon has a very specific sound. It belongs to a company called Lovell McConnell Manufacturing. They were first fitted to cars, and they were the first electric thing ever to be attached to an automobile. The klaxon.
So you don't have the rights to play an actual klaxon noise.
The land of the free, the land of the automobile. You can imagine that in places like Pennsylvania, they must have welcomed them when they arrived, yes?
No.
It's the right. Alan, you're really getting the hang of
Played
this.
this before.
Automobiles travelling on country roads at night must send up a rocket every mile. The driver may then proceed with caution, blowing his horn and shooting off Roman candles. If the driver of an automobile sees a team of horses approaching, he is to stop, pull to one side of the road, cover his machine with a blanket or dust cover, which is painted or coloured to blend into the scenery. In case a horse is unwilling to pass an automobile on the road, the driver of the car must take the machine apart as rapidly as possible and conceal the parts in the bushes.
There's something interesting with police sirens. It's two different notes, and the
Yeah.
reason is if you hear one note for a long time, you can't tell where it's coming from.
That's exactly right. In America, they have a very good rule when you hear a siren on the road.
Yeah.
You just simply stop driving.
Yeah.
And go
Absolutely.
and have a meal.
And then
But they have wider roads.
they have
probably.
much wider roads, of
So,
course, yeah. But it does work
Why don't you
fantastic. And
try
everybody
and
does it.
See which of the emergency services it is, and then decide.
In Britain, we have almost zero tolerance of hooting your horn. But even more intolerant were the Nazis. And in 1936, they
They're
started
not
putting...
known for their intolerance.
No, I know. They would actually punish the driver by putting yellow dots on their car, so it was like a sign, like, here's a hooter.
I've
Turn their
completely
back.
changed my opinion of the Nazis. I thought they were a pretty reasonable bunch of guys. This yellow dot business.
They sure did like labeling
What is this
people,
stuff
didn't they?
Nice and loud, isn't it?
Velcro.
Velcro.
Again, it's a name brand.
There's no such thing as Velcro. Velcro is the name of our companies and the registered trademark for our products. That product should be referred to as hook and loop fastener. Many terms that we use frequently in our everyday language were once trademarks, like escalator, thermos, cellophane,
Kerosene.
nylon, heroin, which was also a trademark once. You can't buy a piece of Velcro, but you can purchase all of the Velcro brand hook and loop fasteners you need. This is Velcro! Do you know why it's called Velcro? It was a Swiss guy, and he noticed the way burrs caught to his socks. And he used the words for velvet and hook, which are velour, vel,
Crochet.
and crochet, crow. You'll notice another similar kind of copyright issue with the well-known musical often performed in schools by Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice, one of their very first works, which is...
Technicolor
also,
Yawn.
have you noticed the way it's always spelled and what follows the word Technicolor? Yeah, they have to spell it like that, the American way.
You have to spell it the American
in order
way.
to use
Interesting.
the word Technicolor. Apple did have a big fight on that with another company called Apple, which was the famous Beatles one, which took years and years
The
to
recording
resolve.
company
The
versus the
original
computer
inventor of the Apple.
With a blithe disregard of a bloody pansy.
I've never
meant the
thought
flower.
that flower is particularly
Blithe.
disregarding of me. Or blind. I think they look like they're frowning.
I'm so lost on this.
The pansy, the flower.
I just don't know what they look like.
No, never.
We have a generation that don't know what pansies look like.
Because we're too busy texting, listening to JLS and going out. Do you know what it will be sorted when the Jaeger bomb round comes along? I know what a Jaeger bomb is. That's why my dad, he's 74 years old, and he uses the little faces that teenage girls use. Not that I text teenage girls. He sent me a message, and it was the most harrowing thing I've ever read, but it shouldn't have been. It went, "Dear Jack, are you coming over for Sunday lunch? Your sister's going to be there. Winky face."
Wrong. Deeply wrong. Now, everyone knows what knees, knuckles, and kidneys are, but what's the point of these less familiar K-parts of the body? The end bulbs of Krauser.
They're in the brain
the
or
best
something.
nickname for someone's balls ever. Behold, the end bulbs of Kraus!
These are all Star Trek movies.
Star Trek. The valves of Kirkring are actually folds. Would that help you at all? Where do we have lots and lots of folds?
Oh, that's in the brain,
Yes.
Well done. Get in there!
We used to be herbivores, which is why we have so much intestine. Because when you only eat plants, you have to take a really long time digesting to get everything out of them. But giant pandas, who are carnivores, they have they were carnivores.
Oh, were they?
That's why they have so much problem, because they have a very short intestine without all of these flaps.
Yeah.
So they only eat bamboo, which goes straight through them, which means they have to eat it all day long.
No, so boring.
That's why they never have sex. And we all know you can't have sex on indigestion.
What happened that the pandas gave up on meat?
They got fat.
Their circumstances.
It seems...
They took a wrong step.
Idiotic. They can't... They look ridiculous.
Let's bring looks into this.
I'm not saying they're not sweet, but they're not dignified, are they?
They probably used to eat things that don't exist anymore.
Oh, like dinosaurs.
Little guys.
Lovely little crunchy one.
The paws of cone.
The bell ends.
No, we're going to come to the bell ends, Alan. Wait for the bell ends. They will come. But the paws of cone. I don't know what's going to come up.
Another ringtone, I can't wait.
They're an internal paw.
They're internal
Is
paws.
it on bones?
No, not in bones. They're in
bone
order to
marrow.
equalise pressure.
In the lungs.
And
And
the
the
backup
ears?
system in the lungs, exactly right, yeah. Named after a German pathologist who was expelled by the Nazis in 1933.
Did he bib his horn?
Yes.
I found some paws in the lungs! Out, get out.
There you go.
Along with the canals of Lambert and the fenestrations of Boron.
I know what a defenestration is chucking someone out of a window, so a fenestration is presumably chucking someone in.
It was the defenestration of Prague, wasn't it? It was a historical event. Quite know what happened there, but...
People got thrown out.
Out of windows. But the...
Defenestration of Amsterdam was a historical event that happened on a stag do that I attended. These prostitutes do not like getting touched.
Oh.
Not me!
Oh, right. You mean the
course
window
not.
ones?
Yeah, I'm not there.
No, no.
By the way, if I was, that's how I do it.
You'd never be out of work, I promise you. The end bulbs of Krauser.
Yeah.
Now, what could they be? We have them on the genitalia in mulberry-like clusters, as a matter of fact.
Pimple bits on the right that are all.
Do that! It was like...
Those pimple bits there and there.
Here. You know when you take it out to go to the loo, right? And then
We also have them all over the skin, not just, but they are very concentrated on the genitalia for a particular reason. Particularly the male genitalia are very sensitive to your swinging...
Is that cheating?
Yes.
Sorry, Colin.
But, no,
It's Murray now.
the survival of spermatozoa is very dependent on a very
Temperature.
narrow range of what?
Temperature.
Temperature, exactly. They're activated by temperatures lower than 20 degrees Celsius.
Oh, they're pretty busy in this country.
They certainly are. And so that leaves us with Kieselbach's plexus.
God.
A plexus, as in complex, is a sort of network.
So it's a nerve ending.
Solar
thing, is it?
plexus.
So
The brain, yeah.
No, actually, it's a network of connected arteries around the point where we're most likely to have a nosebleed. Now, why do doctors hit your knee with a hammer?
To test your reflexes.
Reflexes are they?
The reflexes are big.
It's a
You
muscle.
know the
It's always a
scorer.
really-
He's so no Murray.
So the expression's like a knee-jerk response.
knee-jerk reaction, yeah, knee-jerk.
Because it doesn't go to the brain.
Yeah,
it goes, it communicates amongst itself.
So it is unmediated by the brain entirely.
The other is when you're asleep on a crowded train. And you never see a doctor rushing off with a little hammer.
Too much of a twitch might indicate a brain tumour, stroke, liver disease, multiple
Oh
sclerosis,
my God.
or
That's-
tetanus.
That's
And
nerve-wracking.
too little might mean botulism or an infected spine, and none at all would well be an index or a sign of
Or
Death.
wooden leg.
Or death.
death or syphilis.
Oh, of course, yeah.
What's tonight's star prize? Forget gonorrhea, go for syphilis. You keep the chlamydia, all right? That's yours. No one can take that away. The chlamydia's yours.
I think the whole point with chlamydia is people can take it away from you.
What if you did a murder with your reflex? You had a knife
You
attached
broke
to your
their neck.
shoe or something, and you killed them. Would you be able to say, but the reflex, it didn't go to my brain, so I didn't really do it?
Yes.
So if you sneeze, for instance, and then you run someone over, someone sneezed.
Talk about a reflex.
That means there's been a
That's murdered someone.
So if you want to kill your wife, what you do is you drive down to Dover, you get her right up against a cliff, and then you put your leg behind her and then get a doctor to tap the knee. The doctor would go to prison.
I think so.
What if he was sneezing as he tapped the knee?
The perfect crime.
I love this imaginary super compliant wife.
Why did McCartney's knees displease the Chinese?
Some people don't believe he's Paul McCartney anymore. They believe that he died, and then they had a competition.
There's a similar theory about the Pope, isn't there? That,
Oh,
you know, it's not like the same guy, there's been more than one.
Who was Pope back in Series
Because
K?
otherwise he'd been, 2,000 years old, so...
There's also a conspiracy theory, Tony Mortimer from E17. That, no, I made that up.
Avril Lavigne, there's a conspiracy theory
This is
about,
actually
too.
the first Earl McCartney in the 18th century. And you can see he's down on one knee, bowing to... Who might that be, that figure that he's bowing to?
Some.
It'd be an emperor.
The Emperor of...
China?
The Emperor of China, absolutely. I know you have to do a particular thing, the Chinese for which is to knock your head. In other words,
Kowtow.
knock your head on the ground.
Kowtow?
Kowtow is the right
Yeah.
answer. To kowtow, yeah, bravo.
I don't know why I knew that.
An act that shocked
'Cause I
the
don't
world
speak
and had been
Chinese.
described afterwards as possibly the most significant act in world history.
He refused to kowtow.
And not surprisingly, the trade delegation was refused. In fact, they were just not interested in having trade relations with Europe and the rest of the world.
Oh, he just did straight back. It's not like he went, sup, bitch.
Oh, no.
Look, we can see in the back of that shot, there is a man dismantling his car out of respect. With that landscape. That isn't real landscape. That is a sheet.
The very small-headed horse.
They do this. They do this to make men look taller.
There's a really wonderful secret thing about the Oliver Cromwell statue outside the...
The Oliver Cromwell
He's got his
looks,
flies undone.
and that looks at a Charles I bust on
That's right.
Westminster
A
Abbey.
tiny bust, about that big.
Because they wanted to leave them staring at each other for all eternity, these enemies. But there was little symbols. You know about the black dot? So this is really boring.
No, this is great.
I feel like she got all of this from a Dan Brown novel.
The Horse Guard
Guards
entrance,
Parade,
on the clock at 2:15, there's a black dot, which is the time that he was executed. There's symbols all over London to remind people. I used to do tour guiding on buses.
Now, what happened to the botanist who couldn't tell heads from coconuts?
The man who mistook his wife for a hat.
It's not...
We find out so much about how the brain works when people have brain damage.
Exactly.
And so the man who mistook his wife for a hat, when he left Oliver Sacks's office for the first time, he tried to take her head off. It's my hat's stuck.
And you get other cases where they can't feel one half of their body. They don't know.
Yeah.
They...
People jumping out of bed.
You can't feel your own hand. It's like someone else's. I
want
whatever this is. I want it. What's it called?
Throwing this
Indonesia, on the island of Ambon in 1913, a very popular Canadian botanist by the name of Charles Budd Robinson, and he asked some villagers if they could get a boy to climb a palm and chop down a coconut, which would be Parong Kalapa. Unfortunately, he said Patong Kapala, which means to find a boy and chop off his head. So they thought he was a headhunter, which they had in those parts then, and they murdered him.
We've all done that. Yes. I was in Marbella once.
Penne arrabbiata is a kind of pasta sauce, but penne with one N is penis.
Yes,
You're also
indeed.
asking for an angry penis.
That explains a lot. I worked as a waiter in Italy. I had no idea they wanted pasta.
Funnily enough, that same slip is part of their tourist trade, the difference between Kalapa and Kapala, because you have Kalapa Kapala sold on the island as mementos, which are coconuts shaped into heads. And we've even got a fantastic Finnish little one which goes koko, cocoon, koko, 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 koko. Collect all the wood for the bonfire. All the wood for the bonfire? Yes, all the wood. Stupid things.
Yeah.
What's a knocker-upper's knocker-upper?
Well, that would be the person that wakes the person that went around the streets waking people by bashing their windows with a long stick.
Is completely, utterly and entirely the right answer.
Oh.
Wow.
Absolutely, yes. For some of them are quite well-known, clearly.
Did anyone have, like, nice breakfasts?
At least a coffee in bed.
There was a famous Limehouse knocker-upper called Mary Smith, but she had a fantastic technique, which was shooting peas out of a pea shooter at the windows. Isn't that cool? Doesn't she look a marvellous sight?
Yeah.
Mary is my kind of woman.
Yeah?
Put it this way.
Now, which organisation do these people represent?
The BNP.
Ku Klux Klan.
Oh,
The what?
Ku Klux Klan.
No, they're going to be like one of these Spanish religious organizations.
Is it some sort
Catholics?
of Catholic procession in space?
Yeah.
Spain's absolutely right. They're penitents.
They must be aware that these days that has other connotations.
But they're probably like, oh,
They
we had
like to
first.
reclaim it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they've quite succeeded.
They were very much a symbol of the Inquisition.
Isn't there something about the Ku Klux Klan? They think they're the Knights Templar as well.
But there are more plausible theories about its origin.
No, I didn't think they were the Knights
Oh, right, no.
Templar.
The
Just
fact that
they
they cross on
thought
them,
they
of course, is... The Klan's deep roots may reside in the horse-whispering societies in rural Aberdeenshire, of all places.
In Scotland.
Formed this club of Confederate people in the south, which was largely for pranks and high-spirited larks. And until some appalling man called Nathan Forrest joined it and started turning it into an excuse for lynching black people and murdering them.
Where does Ku Klux come from?
Well, it's from the Greek kuklos, meaning a circle. Now, what colour is a red kite?
Oh dear. It's a type of bird. It's going to be like brown or something, right?
They were named before the English language had a word for orange. We just used the word red for anything that was orange as well.
Yeah.
So it's true of a robin redbreast, which is clearly orange. Same with a red squirrel. There you are, that's orange. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
And indeed, red-headed people.
Yeah.
Some people do through modern use of dyes, don't they? Some of your young friends, I expect.
Yes, you, Jack, in particular.
And red deer, similarly.
What's the name of that red fruit? Oh, the orange?
Yes.
Yeah, pass me one of them.
Exactly.
It could have been, not the orange that made it catch on, but the front of a robin. Front of a robin brand phone.
And when people were getting bullied in the playground, it would be way less offensive. Oi, front of the robin pubes. Like that.
But why is a robin associated with Christmas?
Oh, is this something to do with Jesus? I know he's very Christmassy.
Jesus.
Considering he started it all, I don't think he's all that Christmassy.
I don't think you can hold it against him, really.
No, it's
He's
not his
not
fault.
entering into the spirit of Christmas.
Just saying, I'm not surprised he's lost control of the festival.
There wouldn't be nearly as much snow around the Mediterranean, certainly
of
not in
course.
Palestine.
Not
Again,
because
not Christmassy, is it?
No, I'm so angry about the fact that...
I actually know this.
Yes,
The robin is associated with Christmas because it's the only bird within the natural world that round the period of December flies back to its original nest with its robin parents, gives them a little bit of alcohol, and then has to sit there as they're a little bit racist. I learnt it.
Christmas cards were delivered by postmen wearing bright red uniforms who were known as redbreasts or robins. That was their nickname. Do you know anything about red kites in Britain?
I do. They were reintroduced. They'd gone extinct in
Yeah.
England, and they were reintroduced very successfully.
That's
And
right. The thing was, in medieval times, it was actually the law that you had to kill one if you saw one.
What?
So the numbers drastically reduced. Fortunately, there now
But to
are
what end?
1,800
Why?
breeding pairs of red kites. It's been a hugely successful reintroduction. How did the monkey wrench get its name?
I'm nervous of this because this was a fact that came up on The Unbelievable Truth.
The marvellous Radio 4
And there
quiz
is
show.
a-
they did.
And QI does love disproving.
I think the word is mocked. This programme for being factually incorrect. I'll be honest with you, I don't do all the fact-checking.
Ditto.
Yeah. What was given to me on a piece of paper to read out was the fact that the monkey wrench was named after a person whose name was something like Monka. I don't know, technical.
You could not have parenthesised it more, but nonetheless, we
Yeah.
are beastly rivals of yours. And you did mock us in your last series when
Yeah,
you...
again, well, the person that handed me the piece of paper put on it a piece of QI fact error mockery.
We had
It's
said...
turning into war. War. We're like the southern states. We haven't got the resources, and we're going to turn to racism as a result.
But there you go, that's minus 50 to David, of course.
So what
It's a kind of rather gigantic, not quite sure.
So we might be
Claim
right.
it. No, we know that it isn't Mr. Monkey, but it's generally believed that it's the face of it reminded people of the jaws of a monkey, you know. Or that a monkey version of something in the Navy is a sort of rigging up of something.
But it's not all bad news for Mr. Monkey, because he is the originator of the phrase "spank the monkey." So, he didn't die in vain.
Exactly. Which brings us to the matter of scores.
Oh, dear.
Goodnessly, graciously...
Murray can't help me now.
I'm afraid it's pretty inevitable that in last place with minus 41 is David Mitchell.
For a very smart man, David ends up last on this show more than he ought to.
It means I was on 9.
Yes, and you saved Alan from ignominy, who is on minus 20 in third place.
They genuinely gave David minus 50. That's painful.
Magnificent second place for Jack Whitehall, minus 7. What an incredible score. What an amazing debut from Sarah Pascoe with plus 28.
Whoa. That's huge. I mean, she was offering a bunch of quality facts, but I'm not sure I've ever seen a plus 28.
Good night.
Wow. So my internal mathematician tells me that that's a very broad range of scores this episode, from plus 28 to minus 41. That would be a range of 69. Interesting. Anyway, I'm sure I know Sarah through Taskmaster and whatnot, but I feel like I've seen other episodes of her on QI as well. I don't remember her being so full of information, and I'm really impressed. Her London tour guide knowledge came in quite handy there. And you know, I appreciate David Mitchell because yes, he often ends up with a very low score, and yet we all know he's brilliant. He's also just more than willing to eat a klaxon. Sorry, we can't call it a klaxon because that's clearly not the the noise that that particular trademark of siren makes. Nevertheless, we can't call things klaxons that aren't from that particular company. We can't call Velcro Velcro, because heaven forbid they lose control of that word and it enters the public vernacular. I like learning about all the parts of the body, starting with K, that none of us have heard of. They all really did sound like Star Trek movies, or at least episodes of classic Star Trek. Yeah. Or like a bunch of pulp novellas from, like, 60s, 70s era sci-fi. Flash Gordon and the bell ends of crows. It was a great episode. I'll take a David Mitchell episode any day of the week. I thought I'd honestly seen them all, but I guess I had missed this one. Thank you guys so much for pointing me at it. I quite enjoy Jack Whitehall and Sarah too. They were really good in this one. It was a really well balanced episode. So much so that I feel like Alan almost faded into the background a little bit. There's certain episodes where Alan has to do, not heavy lifting, but he has to be very active just to keep things moving, because people either don't have stuff to contribute or they're hesitant to speak up because they're fearful of the alarm. And this episode was kind of the opposite. He just kind of was able to sit back and let the other three riff, and there was a ton going on, and it was really fun. In any case, another great episode. Perfect way to spend a morning. I'm looking forward to another one next week. Can't wait to hang out with you guys then. In the meantime, don't forget to leave your recommendations. I love to hear your comments about this episode and any other that we've watched over the previous months. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, everybody, take care, stay healthy. We'll see you soon. Cheers.